Welcome to my channel.
not sorry.
The content presented in this video is for informational and entertainment purposes only.
I didn't do.
It is based on our best
And I am not
research
sorry
and understanding of crimes
for
and
the
legal
things
proceedings.
I did do.
However, we are not
This is
legal
Calvin
professionals,
Lloyd Griffith,
and the
who is facing
information
charges for
provided should not
trespassing,
be
grand
considered
theft,
as legal
and
advice
burglary
or
in
factual
Miami-Dade
evidence.
County, Florida. 30-year-old Griffith is a notorious car thief who was already on probation for similar charges when he decided to take his criminal behavior to a whole new level. It all started when Griffith allegedly broke into Miami Edison Senior High School and stole a Volkswagen Passat from the parking lot. But the real show began when Griffith appeared before Judge Catherine Pooler for his bond hearing. He started speaking over the judge, so his mic was turned off, and he began acting up to get the judge's attention.
Anyway, because I smoke weed and cocaine.
Clearly seeking attention, he shouted, "My mom's here," as he was brought into the courtroom. And if that wasn't enough, when his microphone was turned off, he resorted to the one thing he believed would capture everyone's focus: twerking. Yes, you heard that right. While the courtroom erupted in muffled laughter, Judge Pooler was anything but amused. Griffith's family claims he suffers from mental illness and was off his medications at the time of his courtroom escapade. In fact, his mother even showed up to court with a bag of prescription medications in hand.
Your mom is here with a bag full, it looks like his medicine.
Yes.
Griffith was charged with burglary, petite theft, grand theft, and trespassing in a school safety zone. This was not his first rodeo, as he was already on probation for similar offenses. Judge Pooler wasted no time issuing the bond and reminding Griffith to stay far away from Miami Edison Senior High. Clearly, twerking in court doesn't win you any favors. Griffith may be a dancer, however, not all convicts resort to dancing in court, especially not Daryl Brooks. This is Daryl Edward Brooks Jr.,
I got one ear that work, and I heard that.
who is facing multiple charges, including murder in Waukesha, Milwaukee. 40-year-old Daryl Brooks is in court for driving his SUV into a Christmas parade crowd in November 2021. Brooks plowed his vehicle into innocent parade goers, leaving 6 people dead, including an 8-year-old, and dozens injured. As if his crimes weren't horrible enough, Brooks's behavior in court was nothing short of crazy. During the trial, he displayed an aggressive and disruptive attitude, frequently interrupting Judge Jennifer Darrow in an attempt to present absurd arguments.
Except for his own behavior.
Mr. Brooks, be quiet.
Except
I'm
for
not
his.
gonna sit here and be disrespected.
Mr. Brooks, there's nothing disrespectful. They're doing it in
Yes,
a
it is.
respectful.
In response, Darrow occasionally resorted to isolating Brooks in a separate room, allowing him to participate via a monitor, but muting him unless it was his designated speaking time.
Mr. Brooks be removed from the courtroom due to repeated interruptions and disruption with the court. Took his shirt off as well. I'm also told that he is threatening to throw and break items.
This measure was employed whenever Brooks disregarded the judge's authority and continued speaking out of turn.
I just said no. How
Okay.
many times I gotta say the same thing on record?
You know, sometimes, sir, I don't hear what you say because you interrupt me so much or you answer quietly. And I'm taking notes and I'm focused on probably a dozen things at the same time.
It has to be disparaging. Or,
Once again, you're doing this tactic.
Because
you tried
it's
to
not
go
a tactic,
off
it's
of what
facts.
We're talking
It's
about
facts.
to some other reason.
It's facts
You have 2 pictures that you believe were from this witness.
that I know is from
No, that you believe.
that I know.
During the sentencing, Judge Darrow laid it all on the line, telling Brooks he showed no remorse or empathy for his heinous actions, and she wasn't about to let him off the hook easily. She made it clear that no one is safe from his destructive tendencies.
It is very clear to this court that Mr. Brooks has caused carnage, mayhem. It has resulted in many people suffering from PTSD, from mental and emotional trauma that will take a lifetime to recover from, and for some, perhaps, if at all. Frankly, Mr. Brooks, no one is safe from you. This community can only be safe if you are behind bars for the rest of your life.
Brooks took the opportunity to address the court. He rambled on for over 2 hours, wondering why this tragedy happened and how life had strayed so far from what it should be. He claimed he had no anger and promised not to throw shots at anyone, but he threw shots anyway. He verbally attacked the district attorney, refusing to respect how she did her job.
How could life ever get this far away from what it should be? I know who I am. God knows who I am. I had to look inside myself and understand why the comments was being made.
Brooks's family tried to argue about his mental state, but the judge shut that argument down quickly. She stated that mental health wasn't an excuse for Brooks's actions. She clarified that he knew the difference between right and wrong, and his heart was bent on evil. After a nail-biting trial, the jury found Brooks guilty on all 76 counts related to the attack, including 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Judge Jennifer Darrow slapped him with 6 consecutive life sentences. She also added 17.5 years for each of the 61 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety with a dangerous weapon. However bad you think Brooks's case was, it can't be compared to the shocking case of Siale Angialu. This is 25-year-old Siale Angialu, a member of the Tongan Crip gang, who's facing charges as one of 17 people named in a racketeering indictment in Salt Lake City, Utah. Angialu's charges also included conspiracy, assault, robbery, weapons offenses, and a series of robberies and attacks on local store clerks. Angialu, a towering figure, measuring 6'3", a gang member who weighs about 260 pounds, was also charged with assaulting 2 federal officers and threatening them with a firearm. Angialu was the final defendant in the case to face trial, but today he is in a Salt Lake City federal courthouse and feels particularly bold. Despite his multiple crimes, Angialu's actions in court were incredibly shocking and even surpassed his other crimes. As the trial heated up, things took an unexpected turn. You see, a brave prison inmate was testifying about the gang's inner workings when Angialu decided to make a daring move.
Walls.
He spotted a pen, rose swiftly from his seat, snatched the pen from an attorney, and before anyone could do anything, Angialu charged the witness stand. Angialu leaped over the witness stand in a classic John Wick pattern and made to stab the witness that was testifying against him.
Drop it out of your hand.
Luckily, a U.S. Marshal took action before anyone could fully comprehend what was happening. The Salt Lake City John Wick was shot multiple times, received at least 1 chest wound, and was rushed to the hospital. You must be really crazy to pull such a stunt in a courtroom with a U.S. Marshal present. Thankfully, no one else was harmed, as the intended target narrowly escaped the pen-wielding assault. Sadly, Angialu later succumbed to his injuries. The sad event led to a mistrial. The judge recognized that the spectacle had visibly shaken and upset the jury. There was some debate about whether the use of force was justified, with the defendant's family claiming excessive violence.
What was done here on the 21st of April was not right. It was unjust, and the force that they used was excessive and inhumane. We're going to start up by speaking up. We're going to start by joining together with all nations.
However, the U.S. Marshal involved was cleared of any wrongdoing. The court ruled that the use of force was reasonable, given the circumstances of Angialu's sudden attack. Nevertheless, the family insists that racism was at the heart of the shooting. They argued that the marshal should have explored less lethal options like tasers. An internal investigation cleared the marshal of any crimes. Angialu's behavior may have been born out of loyalty to his gang. However, some convicts act on their own, like in the case of Ronnie O'Neal.
I'm here to play around with
y'all. On now.
This is Ronnie O'Neal, who's facing charges for multiple murders in Tampa, Florida. Ronnie O'Neal received a hefty sentence for killing his girlfriend, Kenyatta Barron, and their 9-year-old daughter, Ronavea. He also stabbed his 8-year-old son, Ronnie, and set their house on fire to cover up his crimes. Luckily, his son survived and escaped the fire. In March 2018, Kenyatta called 911 to report Ronnie's behavior.
Hey, I just been attacked by some white demons inside Kiki. Kiki, her name is Kiki.
In the back row.
But the call ended abruptly. Shortly afterward, Ronnie called and stated that he had killed Kenyatta because white demons inside of her were trying to kill him. Although his crimes were shocking, O'Neal's actions in court were even more disturbing. In a shocking display of arrogance, O'Neal represented himself in court. He yelled at the jury and blamed the victims for his heinous acts.
Kill Kenyatta Barron. But I want you to tell it like it is if you gonna tell it.
The judge, Michelle Cisco, reprimanded him for his disrespectful behavior and warned him against further outbursts. Without remorse, O'Neal declared that he was not sorry for his actions, causing the judge to admonish him again.
I am not sorry for something I didn't do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do.
However, he did express condolences for the loss suffered by the victim's family, while simultaneously criticizing the justice system.
But I will say, I'm sorry for your loss.
O'Neal also cross-examined his son, who he nearly killed. Despite his scars, his son bravely testified against him during the trial.
I just saw my dad holding a shotgun and my mom and mom screaming at him.
Judge Cisco, visibly affected by the evidence presented, described the case as the worst she had ever seen.
19 years I've been at this job. I've seen human beings killed at the hands of others in every way imaginable. You name it, I've seen it. Shootings, stabbings, drownings, suffocatings, blown apart by cars, some DUI manslaughter cases, horrible things. This is the worst case I have ever seen as far as the facts go.
The jury recommended a life sentence without parole. In the end, Judge Cisco followed the recommendation of the jury. O'Neal was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole for the murder charges, as well as 30 years for arson and 30 years for each aggravated child abuse, amounting to a total of 90 additional years in prison.
State of Florida versus Ronnie O'Neal III, case number 18 CF 4019, Division, Trial Division 1. Verdict form, death penalty. If your vote to impose death is less than unanimous, the trial court shall impose a sentence of life without the possibility of parole.
O'Neal's request for a new trial was denied. Despite claims of being denied the opportunity to testify, the court rejected his defense. O'Neal blamed his actions on white demons. However, some convicts have drugs to blame, like in the case of Daniel Nicholson. This is Daniel Nicholson, who's facing charges for carrying an offensive weapon, possessing a prohibited weapon, and recklessly causing harm to a prescribed emergency worker in Adelaide, Australia. Nicholson is in Christie's Beach Magistrates Court for a bail application, and when his bail was revoked, he lost it. High on drugs, Nicholson flew into a rage and decided to take matters into his own hands. He overpowered not one, but 2 officers and leaped over the courtroom dock like a true action movie star. But the chaos didn't end there. Nicholson landed on the bar table like a clumsy superhero and was promptly tackled to the floor by a quick-thinking police prosecutor. However, this daredevil wasn't giving up so easily. He managed to break free, only to be caught once again by the same officer he had just fought off. It was a real cat-and-mouse chase right there in the courtroom. The crazy scene unfolded before Nicholson's lawyer and his own family, including his son. Unfortunately for Nicholson, his daring escape didn't quite work out as planned. he was taken back to his cell and hit with charges of escaping custody and recklessly causing harm to the officers involved. The prosecution argued that he deserved jail time for his crazy stunt. During the sentencing, Judge Liesl Chapman called Nicholson's outburst inexcusable. She reminded him that being high on drugs wasn't a good look. She even questioned the example he was setting for his son. Taking into account Nicholson's history of anger, violence, and substance abuse, the judge came to a clear conclusion. Jail time was the only reasonable sentence. Nicholson was sentenced to 1 year, 9 months, and 18 days in prison, with a non-parole period of 1 year. If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video of the craziest courtroom escapes caught on camera.